overarching theory. Despite this diversification, as you saw, the textbook culture is still very much dominated by, I would say, a conservative understanding of sociology, and yeah, a very homogeneous kind of sociological elite. Yeah, so I'm aware of this, and this course reflects also this bias. I do admit this, even though I try to diversify it a little bit more. So I mentioned the 5 different origins of sociology and different understandings, and they all kind of live with us nowadays. But I would say that the reform-minded kind of discipline of the 19th century think tanks has won this game of competition between different conceptions of sociology. So sociology as social engineering was something perhaps predominant also in the 1970s, 60s, when, let's say, modernization theory thought that sociologists could be part of implementing democratic societies in the countries of the global south, or where, let's say, urban planning was accompanied by sociologists who tried to implement the perfect cities in an engineering way. But these conceptions are not very trendy nowadays, I would say. And there's also very little revolution. So the 1970s Marxist peak in sociology then subsided in the 1980s, and there was a certain rebirth of Karl Marx after 2008, also with the Occupy Wall Street movement and criticism of a finance-driven kind of capitalism, Thomas Piketty's kind of work in economics about capital of the 21st century, but still. So I would say that most of academic sociology has not a revolutionary appeal. Despite of this, these attitude surveys of the discipline suggest that in the very long run, sociology moved from, let's say, a rather conservative to a liberal, a left-leaning kind of discipline, such that if I did a survey, perhaps among you here, then probably we would get a mean on a 1 to 10 left-right scale that is a little bit left, at least to the population average, I would assume, even controlled perhaps for age. Yeah, we saw also in the philosophy of science, social science lecture, that sociology still does not have a general paradigm everyone would subscribe to. There is a diversity of philosophical approaches, but still, I would say that at least the mainstream sociology is dominated by a positivistic kind of empirical understanding of the sociology as, yeah, not a very historicist kind of discipline, in the sense that Max Weber, for instance, wanted it. And yeah, also not a very understanding, verstehen kind of discipline in the interpretativist sense that has been most realized actually in anthropology. So just a little ironic footnote here, but in the 1950s, it was sociology that was more of a qualitative discipline in many regards, and anthropologists created these huge databases of different tribes and people in societies and their institutions, and were more of a quantitative discipline. And nowadays, this picture completely reverted, so or was inverted. If you look at the top journals in sociology versus anthropology, then it's basically 90% quantitative articles in sociology and probably less than 5%, if at all, quantitative articles in anthropology. Sociology is also just a very professionalized kind of academic discipline, which I opposed here to, let's say, the public intellectual role of sociologists. which sees sociologists more as general thought leaders that write in the newspapers. And this tradition does exist, perhaps even more so on the European continent. When you think about sociologists from the Frankfurt School, or also French sociologists, Bruno Latour, I just mentioned, who regularly figure in public debate, in newspapers, etc., who might even be invited by major politicians of their countries. But this is not something I would say academic professional sociologists really excel in. This is not the dominant role, at least not anymore. It's also interesting to see that when you look at the sociologist best-selling books, they are often written by non-academic sociologists. This already started actually in the 1950s, where a book like The Lonely Crowd, I think, was the best-selling book written by a lawyer and not a professional sociologist. So that, let's say, the most important books that inform how a society thinks about itself are not necessarily written by sociologists, which is obviously a problem and probably needs to be addressed much more by academic sociologists. We also saw that demographically, the profession grows more diverse over time, also including first-generation academics. The American Sociological Association, ASA, here conducted a little survey on first-gen academics. And it's probably fair to say that the discipline is more open to students with non-academic backgrounds, parents without academic degrees, than many other disciplines, as perhaps economics or law. Yes, one factor in the sociology of our days, I mentioned the link between democracy and the development of sociology, is that the global labor market for sociologists shrank due to the backlash in many more autocratic countries. The Central European University was moved or pushed out from Budapest to Vienna recently. The Levada Center in Russia was declared foreign agent. Many countries' academic labor markets for sociologists have been endangered recently. Sociology has also not managed to organize a clear external job market for sociologists, as, for instance, lawyers or psychologists did, right? Which, you're probably all aware of, with sociologists de facto going into directions as diverse as urban planning, marketing, just high school teaching. So German high schools have a mandatory subject that is social science in most of the states. Data science also, many of my co-authors went into data science recently, others went into the public administration, but this is not a very formalized kind of labor market where it's clear this is here where sociologists typically need a sociology degree in order to enter. So, and this is also probably a collective failure of the discipline, which was not as successful, for instance, as architects were to become consultants in urban planning. Okay, I leave it here. Looking forward to your questions and have a great day.